The capital world of the Viorlian Empire floated like a jewel in the darkness of space. Its oceans shone in deep silver. Its cities rose in tall curves of crystal and living metal. Ships from 100 civilizations circled above it in careful patterns, each one carrying delegates, guards, and watchers. The Royal Summit was not just another meeting. It was a moment that would decide how the galaxy would treat humanity for the next century. Humans were still new to the stars. Only 12 years had passed since Earth had survived its first interstellar conflict. That war had not been started by humanity, but humans had finished it. They had adapted faster than anyone expected. They had learned alien systems, modified captured ships, and turned near defeat into survival. The galaxy had noticed. Some species called humans brave, others called them reckless, a few called them dangerous. Commander Elias Varan stood inside the docking chamber of the summit station, waiting for the signal to step forward. He wore the formal uniform of Earth's coalition fleet. It was simple compared to the flowing robes and glowing armor worn by the other delegates, but it carried quiet weight. On his shoulder rested the symbol of Earth, a blue sphere surrounded by stars. He kept his breathing steady. He had faced enemy fleets. He had stood on burning hulls in vacuum suits. Yet this moment made his heart beat faster than battle ever had. Because this time he carried not a weapon, but representation. Across the grand hall, rows of alien leaders waited in a wide circle. The chamber ceiling stretched high above them, transparent, showing the curve of the planet below. Light filtered in soft shades of gold and violet. Floating translator drones hovered quietly, ready to turn every sound into understood speech. At the center of the chamber stood a raised platform of white crystal, and upon that platform waited Princess Kareth of Viorlia. She was known across the coalition as a symbol of perfection. Her species had refined themselves over thousands of years. They had removed disease, instability, and even emotional extremes from their biology. They did not age as quickly as humans. They did not panic. They did not tremble. Princess Kareth stood tall, her posture effortless. Her skin carried a faint silver tone that shimmered under the light. Her eyes were pale blue, almost luminous. Her expression was calm, not cold, but controlled. Every movement she made seemed measured and balanced. To many species, she was the future of evolution. To humanity, she was the test. A soft tone echoed through the chamber, the signal. Elias stepped forward. Each step across the crystal floor seemed louder than it should have been. He could feel dozens of eyes tracking him, some curious, some doubtful, some quietly hostile. Humans had been granted provisional membership in the coalition. This summit would determine whether that membership became permanent. Elias reached the platform and stopped at a respectful distance. The translator drone hovered between them. Princess Kareth inclined her head slightly. "Commander Elias Varan of Earth," her voice echoed smoothly through the chamber, translated into every known language at once. "On behalf of the Viorlian Empire and the Galactic Coalition, I welcome humanity to this summit." Her tone was steady, perfectly balanced. Elias bowed his head in return. "On behalf of Earth," he said in simple, clear words, "we are honored to stand among you." He had practiced this moment 100 times. There were many ways to greet another species. Some bowed. Some touched foreheads. Some exchanged energy pulses. The coalition protocol allowed each representative to greet in their own cultural way, as long as it was harmless. Elias made a small decision. He extended his hand. It was the simplest human greeting, a handshake. A symbol of equality, a sign of trust. The chamber grew slightly quieter. Some species recognized the gesture, others did not. Princess Kareth looked at his hand. For a fraction of a second, barely noticeable, her eyes shifted. Not confusion, not fear, assessment. Her species had studied humans carefully. They knew the gesture was not aggressive. It was a physical connection, brief and symbolic. She lifted her own hand. Her fingers were slender, slightly longer than a human's. Her skin gave off faint warmth. Their hands met, skin to skin. At first, nothing happened. Then it did. Princess Kareth trembled. It was not a dramatic motion. It was subtle, a ripple that passed through her arm into her shoulders. But in a chamber full of diplomats trained to observe detail, it was impossible to miss. A visible tremor. A Viorlian adult had not trembled in centuries. A wave of whispers spread across the hall. Translator drones buzzed softly as they tried to filter the sudden surge of speech. Security units along the walls stiffened. Elias felt it through their joined hands, the slight shaking. He instinctively loosened his grip, worried he had somehow hurt her, but he had barely squeezed at all. Her skin felt warmer than before, her pulse faster. Her eyes widened not in fear, but in something like surprise. The tremor lasted only 2 seconds. Then she pulled her hand back slowly. Silence filled the chamber. Princess Kareth stood still. She was not visibly distressed. She was not stepping away, but something had changed. Her breathing was slightly deeper. Her gaze remained fixed on Elias. The hall waited. Finally, she spoke. "The greeting is acknowledged," she said evenly. Her voice was steady again, yet a faint tension lingered beneath it. Elias lowered his hand. Inside his chest, his heart pounded harder than before. He did not understand what had happened. His grip had been normal. His temperature was normal. He wore no hidden devices. Medical scans had cleared him before arrival. He had simply shaken her hand. The ceremony continued. Formal speeches followed, trade proposals, defense cooperation discussions. Cultural exchange outlines. But the focus of the room had shifted. Eyes returned to the human representative again and again. Several delegates whispered to their aides. Data pads glowed as medical readings from Princess Kareth were quietly requested. Elias kept his posture calm. He answered questions clearly. He spoke about Earth's rebuilding efforts. He explained humanity's willingness to cooperate, to share technology, to learn from others. But in the back of his mind, one image replayed again and again. Her trembling. After the main ceremony concluded, the delegates dispersed into smaller discussion groups. Elias stepped away from the platform, escorted by 2 coalition observers. He did not get far. A Virelian official approached, tall and composed. "Commander Varen," the official said politely, "Her Highness requests a private audience at her convenience." Elias felt a quiet tightening in his stomach. "Of course," he replied. As he followed the official through curved corridors of white stone and soft light, he wondered what he would say. Had he made a mistake? Had the handshake violated some unknown boundary? Behind him, in the main chamber, tension continued to ripple. Several species were already voicing concern. Humans may emit unknown biological signals. The reaction was involuntary. This could represent a neurological hazard. Others defended him. There was no aggressive motion. The princess did not show distress. Perhaps the response was internal, but the fact remained. A Virelian had trembled. Inside a quiet private chamber overlooking the planet's horizon, Princess Kareth stood alone. She had dismissed her attendants. Her hand rested lightly against the transparent wall. She replayed the moment as well. The contact, the warmth, the pulse beneath his skin, the subtle tension in his muscles, not hostile but alert. Something had moved through her nervous system the instant their skin touched. A surge, not pain, not illness, not fear. Her species did not experience fear the way others did. It had been engineered out generations ago. Emotional spikes had been seen as inefficient, unpredictable, dangerous. They had removed them, yet for 2 seconds her body had reacted outside of control, a tremor. Her medical implants had recorded it clearly. Elevated neural activity, unexpected chemical release. Dormant pathways activating. It should not have happened. There was a soft tone at the door. "Enter," she said. Elias stepped inside. He stopped at a respectful distance. "You requested to see me, Your Highness?" Her gaze studied him carefully. "Yes." For a moment neither spoke. The silence was not hostile, it was searching. "When you initiated physical contact," she began calmly, "did you intend to transmit any signal?" Elias blinked. "No, Your Highness. On Earth, a handshake is simply a greeting. It means respect, trust. Did you alter your skin temperature, your muscular tension?" "No." She stepped closer, observing him with scientific curiosity rather than accusation. "You were recently in combat operations," she said. "Yes. Your medical scans indicate elevated long-term stress adaptation. That's normal for human soldiers." Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in suspicion, but in thought. "When I touched you," she said slowly, "my nervous system reacted in a way it has not since childhood." Elias felt a quiet surprise. "I'm sorry if it caused harm." "It did not cause harm," she replied. "It caused activation." He did not understand. She lifted her hand slightly, studying her own fingers. "For centuries, my people have refined ourselves. We removed emotional volatility. We removed unpredictable chemical surges. Stability became our highest achievement." She looked back at him. "Your biology is not stable." He almost smiled. "That's one way to describe humans. When I touched you, she continued, your pulse pattern, your micro-movements, your neural rhythm, they carried layered emotional data. Stress, restraint, caution, curiosity. He frowned slightly. That's just being alive. Her eyes softened almost imperceptibly. Yes, silence settled again. For 2 seconds, she said quietly, I felt something unfiltered. Elias did not interrupt. It was not fear, she added. Then what was it? He asked gently. She hesitated. I do not yet have a word for it. Outside the chamber, political discussions were growing louder. Reports were spreading quickly through secure networks. Some coalition members were already drafting proposals to limit human physical interaction at diplomatic events. Others argued that the incident could represent a breakthrough in cross-species neuroscience. Inside the quiet room, the princess studied the human before her. You did not intend harm, she concluded. No, and yet your presence alone altered my biological equilibrium. Elias shifted slightly. Is that bad? She considered the question carefully. For my people, loss of control is seen as weakness. And for humans, he replied, it's normal. Her gaze sharpened again. You accept instability. We don't call it instability, he said. We call it emotion. She looked at him for a long moment. Then unexpectedly, she extended her hand again. Repeat the greeting, she said. Elias hesitated only briefly. He stepped forward. Their hands touched once more. This time he was more aware of the contact. He kept his grip gentle. Her skin warmed again. Her pulse increased. And once more a tremor, slight but real. She did not pull away immediately. She held the contact for 3 seconds. 4, 5, her breathing deepened. Then she withdrew her hands slowly. The trembling faded, but her eyes carried something new. Not alarm, not distress, curiosity. Fascinating, she murmured. Elias exhaled softly. What does this mean for the summit? She turned toward the window, gazing at the planet below. It means, she said quietly, that humanity is not as simple as the coalition believes. Behind her calm posture, something subtle had shifted. For the first time in centuries, a Virelian leader had experienced something beyond perfect control. And it had begun with the simplest human gesture. A handshake. The quiet chamber felt different after the second handshake. The air seemed heavier, filled with thoughts neither of them had fully formed yet. Commander Elias Varan stepped back slowly, giving Princess Kareth space. He watched carefully, ready to react if she showed discomfort, but she remained standing tall, her posture steady even though a faint tension still lingered in her shoulders. She studied her own hand again, as if it no longer belonged entirely to her. My systems confirm the same response, she said calmly. Elevated neural activity, increased sensory processing, emotional pathways partially active. Elias crossed his arms loosely, trying to understand. You say emotional pathways like they're old machinery. In a way they are, she replied. My people redesigned ourselves long ago. We believed emotions that caused unpredictability were inefficient, so we reduced them. Over generations we became stable, calm, logical. And now, he asked. She paused before answering. Now something within me is reacting against that stability. She moved slowly across the chamber, her long steps graceful. Outside the window, the curved horizon of the Virelian world glowed softly under the distant sun. Ships moved like tiny lights across space. You must understand, she continued, no Virelian adult has displayed visible trembling in centuries. It is considered biologically impossible. Elias gave a quiet half-smile. Humans do impossible things all the time. Her eyes shifted toward him, curious. Yes, she said. That is precisely what concerns many of the delegates. He sighed lightly. I had a feeling. She turned back toward the window. Several coalition representatives have already requested emergency review panels. Some believe humanity may unknowingly possess a biological influence. I'm just a guy who shook your hand, Elias said. Your simplicity is misleading, she replied gently. Silence stretched between them for a moment, but it felt thoughtful rather than awkward. A soft tone sounded from the wall, signaling an incoming communication. Princess Kareth waved her hand through a floating interface. A holographic display appeared, showing multiple delegates speaking urgently. Uncontrolled response indicates potential neurological hazard. Recommend temporary restriction of human physical contact. Until further testing is completed. The voices overlapped in different languages, translated instantly into understandable speech. Elias felt tension tighten in his chest. So now I'm dangerous, he said quietly. She muted the transmission. They are cautious, she corrected. That's a polite way to say afraid. She did not deny it. Her gaze softened slightly. Fear is unfamiliar to my people, but caution we know well. He walked closer to the window, standing beside her. I didn't mean to cause problems, he said. I believe you, she answered. Another pause followed, then she said something unexpected. When you released my hand earlier, I felt absence, he blinked. Absence? Yes, a sudden quiet inside my mind, a return to equilibrium. But it felt incomplete. Elias wasn't sure how to respond to that. I've never heard someone describe calm as incomplete, he admitted. For my species, calm is perfection, she said slowly. But now I question whether perfection removed something important. Before he could answer, the door opened quietly. A Virelian aide stepped inside and bowed. Your Highness, the emergency session has been called. Several coalition leaders request your presence. She nodded. I will attend shortly. The aide left. She turned back to Elias. You will accompany me. His eyebrows lifted. Are you sure that's wise? Yes, she said simply. If the discussion concerns humanity, humanity should be present. They walked together through long corridors filled with soft light. Servants and guards stepped aside respectfully as they passed. Elias noticed subtle glances from other species, curiosity, caution, even admiration. News traveled fast in diplomatic circles. By the time they reached the council chamber, the atmosphere felt tense. The room was circular, with seats arranged in layers. Representatives from dozens of species filled the space. Some floated in energy fields, others sat on organic structures shaped to their bodies. The moment Princess Kareth entered, the chamber quieted. She took her place at the center. Elias stood slightly behind and to the side. A tall, insect-like delegate spoke first. Your Highness, we must address the incident. Our data indicates that physical contact with the human representative caused an involuntary neurological response. It did, she said calmly. Then it may represent a threat. It represents an unknown, she corrected. Another delegate leaned forward. Unknown equals risk. Elias kept his expression neutral, though inside he felt frustration rising. Princess Kareth's voice remained calm but firm. Commander Varen has shown no hostile intent. Medical scans reveal no harmful emissions. Yet you trembled, a third delegate said. Yes, she replied. And I remain functional. A quiet murmur spread through the chamber. The insect-like delegate continued. Our recommendation is temporary limitation of physical proximity between humans and other species until further research is completed. Elias felt the weight of the words. Isolation, suspicion. He stepped forward slightly. May I speak? Several heads turned toward him. Princess Kareth inclined her head. You may. Elias chose his words carefully. Humans evolved on a harsh world, he said. We deal with stress constantly. Our bodies react. Our emotions react. Maybe that looks unstable from the outside, but it also means we adapt fast, we connect fast. Some delegates listened with interest. I didn't do anything special, he continued. I just greeted her the way humans greet friends and equals. Silence followed. One small reptilian delegate spoke softly. Perhaps the effect is not harm, but stimulation. Others exchanged thoughtful glances. Princess Kareth added quietly, repeated contact produced similar response but did not escalate into damage. Instead, neural pathways showed increased complexity. That caused more murmurs. Complexity is not necessarily positive, one voice argued. It is not necessarily negative either, she replied. The debate continued for what felt like hours. Some delegates demanded strict rules. Others urged caution but openness. A few suggested studying human emotional biology as a new scientific field. Finally, the session ended without final decision. Temporary monitoring would continue, but no restrictions were imposed yet. As the chamber emptied, Elias exhaled deeply. That went better than I expected, he said. She nodded slightly. Your honesty influenced several delegates. I just told the truth. They walked together again through the quiet corridors. May I ask something? He said. Yes. Why did you ask me to repeat the handshake earlier? She considered before answering. Because I wanted to know if the first reaction was coincidence. And now I know it was not. They reached a balcony overlooking the city below. Lights stretched across the horizon like stars fallen onto the surface. I have spent my entire life in perfect emotional balance, she said quietly. Nothing surprised me, nothing overwhelmed me. I believed that was strength. And now you're not sure. No, she admitted. Now I feel curiosity, he smiled slightly. Curiosity is a good start. She turned toward him again. When humans feel strong emotion, she asked, does it always cause instability? Sometimes, he said honestly. But it also creates courage, compassion, creativity. The things that push us forward. Her eyes lingered on his face, searching. Perhaps that is why the galaxy both fears and admires humanity. He laughed softly. We're still trying to figure ourselves out. Another moment passed in comfortable silence. Then alarms sounded faintly in the distance. Both turned immediately toward the source. Princess Kareth activated a nearby display. Red indicators flashed across the summit station. Security alert, she said. Elia's posture changed instantly, soldier instincts returning. What's happening? Unknown system disruption, she replied. Multiple energy fluctuations. Outside, ships shifted position rapidly. Inside the station, lights flickered briefly. Elias felt adrenaline surge through him. Do you need help coordinating response? She looked at him for a long moment. Yes. Together, they turned toward the emergency control center. Behind them, the peaceful calm of the summit had begun to crack, and though neither said it aloud, both sensed that whatever came next would test more than diplomacy. It would test whether humanity's unpredictable strength, the very thing that caused fear, might also be what saved them all. The first explosion was not loud. It was silent. Across the summit station, lights dimmed for half a second, then flared back brighter than before. A low vibration moved through the crystal floors, like the deep hum of a giant machine waking up. Outside the transparent walls, several ships suddenly changed direction, their engines glowing brighter as they adjusted formation. Inside the emergency control center, holographic screens lit up in sharp red. Princess Kareth stood at the center of the room, her posture straight, her face calm but focused. Around her, Viorlian officers moved quickly, their hands sliding through floating control panels. Report, she said. Energy grid fluctuation across sectors 3 and 4, one officer replied. Shield matrix destabilizing. Cause, unknown, possible external interference. Commander Elias Varon stepped closer to one of the displays. His mind shifted instantly from diplomat to soldier. The calm hallway conversations were gone. The careful political words were gone. This was a crisis. Is it an attack? He asked. Not confirmed, the officer answered, but probability increasing. Another vibration shook the room, this time stronger. Somewhere far below, a deep metallic groan echoed through the structure. Several non-Viorlian delegates had gathered in the corridor outside, visible through the open entrance. Many of them looked confused. Some looked frozen in place, waiting for instructions. Elias noticed something important. They were waiting. Princess Kareth activated a wide station broadcast. All delegates remain calm, she said clearly. Emergency systems are active. Further instructions will follow. Her voice was steady, controlled. But then another surge hit. The lights flickered again, longer this time. Gravity fluctuated slightly, just enough to make a few officers shift their footing. On the main display, an outer defense satellite suddenly went dark. External weapons platform disabled, an officer reported. Now the word attack no longer needed confirmation. Elias felt adrenaline surge through him, sharp and clear. His thoughts accelerated. He scanned the tactical map. Where's the breach point? He asked. Upper docking ring, an officer replied. Multiple hull fractures detected. Princess Kareth's eyes narrowed slightly. Evacuate non-essential delegates to inner core shelters. The order went out, but something else was happening. Across the room, one of the Viorlian officers suddenly stopped moving. His hands hovered above his console. His breathing grew shallow. Another officer beside him stared at a flashing red alert and did not respond. Elias recognized the signs instantly. Overload. Their species had removed emotional volatility. They had reduced extreme responses, but they had also reduced the ability to handle sudden chaos. Princess Kareth saw it too. Officer Relan, she said calmly, continue the shield recalibration. He did not answer. His body was still, not afraid, not panicking, just stalled. Elias stepped forward. You're trying to stabilize too many systems at once, he said quickly, scanning the interface. Prioritize life support and structural integrity. Forget external comms for now. He did not ask permission. He simply acted. His fingers moved across the alien interface, slower at first as he translated the symbols, then faster as patterns became clear. Humans had learned to adapt to foreign technology during the war. This was different hardware, but the logic of emergency systems was universal. Protect life, stabilize structure, restore power. Sector 4 rerouted, he said, diverting energy from ceremonial lighting to shield grid. One of the Virelian officers blinked as if waking from a trance. That will reduce aesthetic projection. Elias glanced at him briefly. Right now we care about breathing, not aesthetics. Princess Kareth watched him carefully. Another explosion shook the upper levels. A section of the holographic ceiling display flickered out completely, replaced by static. Multiple unidentified vessels emerging from warp, an officer finally reported, voice steady but strained. The display zoomed outward. Dark ships, angular and unfamiliar, slid into view near the station's outer perimeter. Not Coalition design, not Virelian, a rival empire, one that had openly criticized humanity's admission into the Coalition. Princess Kareth's expression remained composed, but her voice sharpened slightly. Activate defense fleets. Fleet response delayed, an officer replied. Signal interference detected. The attackers had chosen their moment carefully during a diplomatic summit. With leaders from dozens of species present, if the station fell, the Coalition would fracture, and humanity would be blamed. Elias straightened. Inner corridors are too exposed, he said. You need physical coordination teams. Our species coordinates best through central command, one officer answered. That's not working right now, Elias replied. You're trying to control everything from one point, break it into teams, manual overrides. Princess Kareth looked at him. Her mind moved quickly. She saw the pattern clearly now. Her people thrived in stable systems. Humans thrived in unstable ones. Authorize manual sector teams, she ordered. Several officers hesitated. That will reduce centralized efficiency, one said. It will increase adaptability, she replied firmly. Elias nodded once, then moved toward the exit. I'll take the upper corridor teams, he said. You are not required to risk yourself, one officer said quickly. Elias gave a short smile. I'm human, risk is kind of our thing. Princess Kareth stepped toward him. For a brief second their eyes met. Then another violent tremor shook the station. A crack spread across part of the wall behind them, thin but visible. Without thinking, Elias reached for her hand. Move, he said. Their fingers locked. And she trembled again, stronger this time, but something else happened too. She did not freeze. She moved. Together they ran toward the corridor as a panel collapsed behind them in a shower of sparks. The tremor in her hand continued for 2 seconds, 3, then steadied. Her grip tightened, not from fear, from decision. They reached the upper docking ring. Smoke drifted through the air from damaged conduits. Emergency lights pulsed red along the walls. Several alien delegates were trapped behind a sealed bulkhead that had malfunctioned during the explosion. A Virelian technician stood in front of the control panel, staring at flashing error messages. It will not respond, he said, voice level but uncertain. Elias stepped beside him. Manual override requires simultaneous physical input and neural confirmation. I'll handle physical, Elias said. You focus on system codes. The technician hesitated. Princess Kareth stepped forward. Do as he says, the technician obeyed. Elias pulled open the panel, revealing wiring and control rods. Heat brushed against his face. On my count, he said. 3, 2, 1. He forced the rods downward while the technician entered override commands. The door shuddered, then slid open. Inside, several delegates looked disoriented but unharmed. Follow emergency lights to inner core, Elias instructed. They moved. Across the docking ring, more damage reports came in. A section of the outer hull had been breached. Atmosphere was venting slowly. Elias grabbed a nearby emergency seal kit and ran toward the flashing indicator. Princess Kareth followed without hesitation. They reached the breach. A thin crack along the wall leaked air into space, creating a faint pulling force. 2 Virelian officers stood nearby, staring at the crack as if calculating perfect repair efficiency. We do not have optimal tools, one said. Elias did not wait. He pressed the emergency seal patch over the fracture and activated it manually. The material expanded, hardening instantly against the surface. Pressure stabilized. The officers blinked. That was improvised, one said. Yeah, Elias answered. Welcome to human engineering. Outside, the rival ships began firing controlled energy bursts at the station's outer defenses. Shield strength fluctuated dangerously. Princess Kareth activated a local defense console. Fleet units are regaining signal, she said, but her voice held something new, energy. Focus sharpened by motion. Another explosion rocked the station, knocking one of the Virelian officers off balance. Before he could fall, Elias caught him, and in that moment Kareth saw it clearly. Humans did not eliminate emotional spikes, they harnessed them. The surge of adrenaline, the sharp focus, the quick decision without perfect data. It was not chaos, it was controlled intensity. She felt it again through her connection to Elias beside her, not physical touch this time, proximity. The resonance her nervous system had detected earlier. Her pulse increased. Her body responded, not with paralysis, with readiness. They moved together through the damaged corridor, coordinating evacuations, sealing breaches, rerouting power. Gradually, the Virelian officers began to adapt. Under human leadership, they stopped waiting for perfect instructions. They acted. Princess Kareth issued fleet commands with increasing speed. Human support ships docked nearby as part of the summit delegation powered up weapon systems. Earth's captains did not hesitate. Within minutes, coordinated counterfire began pushing the rival ships back. The attackers had expected confusion. They had not expected rapid adaptation. On the main external display, one enemy vessel faltered under concentrated return fire. Another retreated. Within 20 minutes, the assault broke. The remaining hostile ships jumped to warp, vanishing into darkness. Silence fell over the station. Emergency lights shifted from red to steady white. Damage reports scrolled across the displays, but the worst had been prevented. No mass casualties, structural integrity holding, the summit still standing. Elias leaned against a wall, breathing heavily but smiling faintly. Princess Kareth stood beside him. Her posture was steady, her eyes brighter than before. "You adapted faster than predicted," she said. "That's what we do," he replied. She looked down at her hand. It was not trembling now, but her pulse was elevated, her neural readings still active. "I felt it again," she said quietly. "Felt what?" "The surge," he nodded. "That's adrenaline." She considered the word carefully. "And it does not frighten you." "Sometimes it does," he admitted. "But we move anyway." She turned toward him fully. "For centuries we believed removing such surges made us stronger. And now," she looked around at the recovering station, at officers who had begun taking independent initiative, at delegates who were alive because humans had refused to freeze. "Now I believe we removed something essential." Later, once the station was stabilized, the coalition leaders reconvened. The atmosphere in the chamber had changed completely. Reports confirmed that without human intervention in manual systems and rapid coordination, damage would have been far worse. Several delegates who had earlier argued for human restrictions now spoke differently. Their instability enabled flexibility. Their emotional surge did not cause harm, it drove action. Princess Kareth stepped forward to address the assembly. "Today we witnessed something important," she said clearly. "We believed perfection meant eliminating unpredictability. Yet in the moment of crisis, unpredictability became strength." Her gaze briefly met Elia's. "Human emotional intensity is not a weapon, it is an adaptive force." Silence filled the chamber. Then she continued. "Our species trembled today, not from weakness, but from reactivation of pathways long dormant." Elias felt a quiet warmth in his chest. She extended her hand once more in front of the entire coalition. This time it was deliberate. Elias stepped forward and took it. She trembled again, but only slightly. And she did not pull away. The chamber watched closely. "This," she said calmly, "is not a threat. It is evolution." After the session ended and the delegates dispersed, Elias and Kareth stood alone once more by the great window overlooking the planet. "When humans tremble," she asked softly, "what does it mean?" He thought for a moment. "It means something matters," he said. She nodded slowly. "For the first time in my life," she said, "something matters in a way I cannot fully control." He smiled gently. "Welcome to being human." She did not correct him. Outside, the stars shone quietly. The galaxy had tried to test humanity's place among them. Instead, it had rediscovered something it had forgotten. Strength was not the absence of feeling. It was the courage to feel deeply. "And act anyway,"